During the 1880s and 1890s, through the turn of the century, the early 1900s was the golden age of courthouse construction in Texas, when all of these kinds of buildings were constructed in little county seats all over the state.
They are by themselves one of the largest collection of Victorian architecture anywhere in the United States.
I think the reason that the counties built these ornate courthouses was to make a statement.
A writer described them as the cathedrals of the prairie.
Every time my grandfather traveled and went to a town that was the county seat, he had to go into the town and drive around the courthouse. He felt like he had not been in that town unless he had seen and driven around the courthouse.
I think every courthouse was built with the idea in mind that it was going to be a centerpiece for that particular town and that particular county.
They're a landmark from the past. Our ancestors' lives, in many cases, were recorded there.
People are enormously proud of those buildings.
It was called the Golden Age of Texas courthouses, that period from about 1890 to 1900. The construction of Texas's great courthouses began in 1881, when the Texas State Legislature passed an act that authorized counties to issue bonds. As a result, courthouses built between the late 19th and early 20th centuries were constructed as majestic monuments of community justice and strength. During the late 1800s in Texas, the courthouse became the capital of the county, the hub of all activity, and every county dreamed of building the grandest courthouse possible. The county seats of each of Texas's 254 counties are located near the center of the county. A central location made it easy for early residents to make it to the courthouse for jury duty on horseback.
For at least the first 50 years of our state's history, virtually every judge in the state rode a circuit, usually by horseback or by wagon.
In the late 1800s, the residents of each county wanted their courthouse to stand apart architecturally. Using blueprints from the most sought-after architects and the best materials and local stone, skilled artisans embellished the structures with extraordinary Victorian flourishes.
The ones that are primarily considered historic courthouses were stone, granite, longleaf pine, cypress wood, slate in the shingles, precious metals of brass and bronze materials, but they were high quality buildings.
Today, Texas has some of the finest historic courthouses that exist anywhere in the U.S. While some have been well maintained, others have been in need of renovation and major repairs. One such case was Goliad County. Located in South Texas is the picturesque town of Goliad, which was founded by the Spanish in the 1700s. The town has a colorful history that belies its peaceful present-day existence. The huge hanging tree on the town square stands as a reminder of the swift justice meted out on the Texas plains. In 1894, Goliad County constructed a magnificent new courthouse in the popular Second Empire design. The courthouse opened with great fanfare, and local citizens proudly proclaimed that it was one of the finest buildings in all of Texas. During a 1942 hurricane, the courthouse clock tower and dome were destroyed. For the next 60 years, Goliad's courthouse sat in quiet indignity, stripped of its crowning features.
Being at the start of World War II, they could not afford to rebuild it, and so until just this last year, they did not have that tower, which greatly changed the building. Really kind of depressed the local folks that they had lost their clock tower and image that so many of the counties had.
Recently, the courthouse underwent a complete renovation, including replacement of its long-missing towers and dome. The courthouse would be restored to authentic 1890s condition. Early on a crisp October morning, a crowd is gathered around Goliad's Courthouse Square to watch as the new towers are installed on the courthouse roof. The original courthouse towers were built on-site in Goliad. But these days that's not possible, since only a few companies specialize in detailed architectural restoration work.
The towers were manufactured in Salt Lake City. It took them about 6 months to manufacture them, and they've shipped them over here on flatbed trucks.
Well, what's going on today is something that we've waited a long time to see happen.
This courthouse is the most important building in the whole county.
And this building ought to be good, you know, for at least another 100 years or longer.
Workers put the last-minute touches on the clock tower. When the signal is given, the crane lifts the new clock tower to the roof of the courthouse.
5 miles out in any direction, you're going to be able to see that clock tower.
This is a great day for Goliad, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
After years of careful planning, Goliad's new clock tower is positioned on its platform. Architects have been the guiding force behind the more than 700 county courthouses that have been built in Texas since 1836. The architectural designs were typical of the era, and architects working in Texas were influenced by buildings in the eastern U.S. and in Europe. They are popularly called the Victorian style.
Well, I think the Victorian is not a precise architectural term, but when you say it and people see one, they know exactly what is meant by the term.
Favorite architectural styles of the Victorian era included Second Empire, Classic Revival, Beaux-Arts, Renaissance, and Romanesque. J. Riley Gordon, arguably the leading architect of the era, was a prolific contributor to the courthouse collection.
Gordon designed what is probably the most beloved 19th century Texas courthouse, the Ellis County Courthouse in Waxahachie.
Ellis County's stunning red sandstone and granite courthouse, completed in 1897, is a lasting example of Romanesque revival style. A large clock tower dominates the structure.
The Ellis County Courthouse embodies Gordon's rethinking of the county courthouse type, whereas most of his contemporaries placed the entrances to the courthouse on they centered them on the street fronts of the building. Gordon sort of rotated the cross corridors and put the entrances at the corners to the building.
Legend has it that as it was being built, a German stonemason carved progressively uglier faces on the facade of the building due to his steadily deteriorating relationship with a local girl.
I'm sure that the Ellis County Courthouse had a very generous budget, just to judge by its external finishes.
The town of Center, located in the piney woods of East Texas, is home to another outstanding courthouse. In 1885, Irish architect John Joseph Emmett Gibson designed Shelby County's courthouse to resemble the Irish castles of his homeland. Dubbed the Irish Castle on the Square, it replaced the earlier 1882 courthouse that was destroyed by fire. The curbs still hold the iron rings where courthouse visitors used to tie up their horses.
Unique to the building are the fireplace chimneys that are on all corners, are made of rounded brick. The interior floor on the second floor of the courtroom is slanted from a high part in the back of the courthouse to the lowest part at the judge's bench. The reason for that was so that everyone could have a good view of the courthouse. The trapdoor is probably the most unique part of our courthouse and the one that brings the most excitement from all kids and adults alike. Right beside the judge's bench was a trapdoor that allowed him to open it in case the trial got too heated and too excited and he did not want to have to face an angry mob outside.
The Shelby County Courthouse is particularly endearing because of its eccentric architectural character.
At first, county buildings were little more than rustic cabins. Often court proceedings were held in tents or in stables. Courthouses were among the first permanent structures built in the new counties, and they immediately became symbols of local pride and self-government.
An individual would go to the courthouse in that era to register their brands for their cattle, to make sure that their lands were owned by them, or to stake a claim on land.
Trials, elections, parades, festivals, campaign rallies, marriages, and community celebrations are just a few of the events linked to historic county courthouses.
If you're in a small community, say 5,000 to 10,000, the purpose of the courthouse is still a social gathering place.
The courthouse was always a place where people went for necessary business, to register deeds, to obtain certified copies of documents.
In the old days, is the only place where a lot of small counties could carry on their social activities. They had the Christmas parties in the courthouse, they had the dances in the courthouse, and they even had funerals in the courthouse.
Early Texans wanted to build the grandest courthouses possible as a matter of civic pride and to demonstrate that their county was just as prosperous as the next county.
I think in the period which we're looking at, the 1880s and 90s, everybody was building grand structures, and that was sort of the style. If you wanted a great public building, you wanted it to be big and impressive and not just a frame building or something simple.
And there was competition between the counties to attract business, and having an attractive courthouse was one of the things they felt would be very important.
When referring to the Bell County Courthouse, one resident of a neighboring county wrote,
"Its massive architectural entrance impresses the visitor with Bell County's unusual wealth and classic taste of her people."
The stately Bell County Courthouse in Belton, designed by Austin architect J.M. Preston, is another architectural masterpiece. The courthouse has the feel and look of a state capitol.
The Bell County Courthouse is certainly one of the most monumental courthouses of the 1880s, 1890s period. It is a Victorian version of classicism and crowned with a central cupola that expands in scale to become almost dome-like.
Across the state, in far west Texas, is Marfa in Presidio County. The Presidio County Courthouse, built in 1886, is an impressive structure, seen for miles around when driving into Marfa. Designed by Alfred Giles, it is an enduring example of Second Empire style.
Marfa has an extraordinary ambiance, in part because of the climate, the quality of sunlight and air. It's a kind of very crystalline and precise.
The courthouse, though fully restored, still maintains a strong West Texas feel on the inside. Presidio County has a cinematic reputation dating back to when the Hollywood movie Giant was filmed there in 1956. Legend has it that Elizabeth Taylor and Rock Hudson's ranch house in the movie was modeled after the courthouse in Marfa. Today, Marfa is home to a growing arts community, and the Presidio County Courthouse stands tall and majestic, towering over the arid West Texas landscape. San Antonio is known for its colorful riverwalk and authentic Spanish missions that date back to 1730. The city is also home of the largest county courthouse in Texas. Bexar County's imaginative red granite courthouse in San Antonio is one of the most impressive courthouses of the Victorian era. Designed in Romanesque Revival style by J. Riley Gordon, it was completed in 1892. At the time, San Antonio was the largest city in Texas, with 18,000 residents. The courthouse design, which features a distinctive beehive dome, was the result of a national architectural competition. Over 25 designs were received from 10 states, and when both the first and second prize winners were San Antonio architects, some felt that objectivity might be lacking. But no one disputes that Bexar County was provided with an architectural masterpiece. In 1897, architect W.C. Dodson completed Coryell County's Beaux-Arts-style courthouse. The architect included Romanesque details that featured prominent red domes and stone statues at the corners. The unusual limestone and sandstone building is located in the central Texas town of Gatesville, close to Fort Hood.
Some people claim that this is the most beautiful courthouse in Texas. It's been restored, and when they did the restoration, they cleaned out a lot of the old false ceilings, and they found that Tiffany glass dome in it. Extremely valuable, and no one knew it was there until they restored the courthouse.
Scottish stonecutters cut and shaped the stones for the building's exterior. Gatesville residents living near the courthouse at that time remember the Scots playing bagpipes in the evening after finishing their work. By the 1950s, many of these fine buildings that reflected the glory of a bygone era had been demolished to make way for newer, modern structures. They were considered out of style and old-fashioned. The El Paso County Courthouse, constructed in the 1880s, was considered one of the finest structures in West Texas. Sadly, it was demolished to make way for a newer structure. In Hempstead, the distinctive Waller County Courthouse was razed and replaced with this modern building.
During the 50s, they built a lot of courthouses called modern architect style, or institutional buildings. And they even destroyed a lot of towers from other buildings to make it look like that. At the time, they thought that embellishments were a social evil, so to speak. They were wasting money doing towers and embellishments. And so they built a lot of nondescript buildings that are now have no appeal whatsoever.
By 1998, the Texas courthouses had been placed on the list of America's 11 most endangered historic places. Through the vital efforts of the Texas Historical Commission and the Texas Historical Courthouse Preservation Program, many of these beautiful buildings are being restored.
Preservation of historic buildings is vitally important to preservation of our culture, our history. Our history is the only thing that makes us different city to city from anybody else. So to preserve the built environment is vitally important to our identity.
I feel most proud for the citizens because there are 120 counties that are in some stage of preserving, renovating their courthouse.
Meanwhile, at the Goliad County Courthouse, installation work continues on the building's towers. The shining new clock tower and cupolas will be the finishing touches for the courthouse restoration. The 32,000-pound structure rests on a tower base that is built to stand the test of time. In addition to the clock tower, smaller cupolas will be raised and set in place on the roof.
They're doing the last minute touch-ups to the sheet metal before they lift this cupola.
Oh, this is wonderful, wonderful. I can't even explain how thrilling it is. We've waited a long time to get the towers back on, and now they're here, and it's beautiful.
It was a complex job. You know, there was 5 cupolas, you know, so it was a big job. We started yesterday, we'll finish it up today.
Once the traditional weather vane is in position, Goliad's clock tower is complete. In addition to the exterior work at the Goliad Courthouse, the interior is being completely restored to original 1890s condition.
We've essentially gutted the interior of the building and taken it back to just the bricks, and we're building back all of the historic elements and configurations and putting all of the decorative pieces and parts back together the way they're supposed to be. I've been working on the project for a little over 4 years, from the beginning of the master planning phase where we were deciding what to do with the building. The clock tower is the thing that everyone will remember about this project for decades. We've built a landmark today.
Other Texas counties, such as Dallas County, are working to restore their courthouses. Dallas's large 1892 structure is the 6th courthouse for the county. The first 5 courthouses were lost to fires, and when Old Red was built in 1892, only stone and steel were used to prevent another catastrophe. A bell tower once graced the roof, but was removed in 1919 due to structural concerns.
The Dallas County Courthouse is wonderful because of its materiality. The extensive use of red sandstone, which was used on Texas county courthouses, particularly that were built in portions of the state with access to local stone.
The building is being restored to its original condition and will be used as a museum. Sadly, some of Texas's historical courthouses have been neglected. One of several such examples is the old Nueces County Courthouse in downtown Corpus Christi, which once welcomed hundreds of visitors a day. The abandoned courthouse now sits boarded up and surrounded by a forbidding chain-link fence near the waterfront. The building was abandoned in 1976 when county offices were moved to a modern high-rise office tower.
They basically, when they moved out of it, they just let it sit there until it rotted. The windows were all busted. It rained in, and you could tell that the wood was starting to rot.
This once beautiful courthouse, which was almost demolished for a freeway overpass, still maintains a sense of dignity while awaiting Nueces County officials' decision about its future. Plans are in the works to restore the building as a museum. The statues that have silently guarded the entrance for nearly a century are still in place. But other counties have recognized the value of their historic buildings, such as this one in Hallettsville, seat of Lavaca County.
The Lavaca County Courthouse in Hallettsville is one of those Victorian Texas county courthouses that puts its town on the map.
During holiday season, people come from miles around to see the dazzling display of lights on Lavaca County's Courthouse Square. Milam County in central Texas and Atascosa County in South Texas have also completed restoration of their courthouses. The Comal County Courthouse in New Braunfels is another Romanesque revival building designed by J. Riley Gordon. It opened in 1898 and is still in use today. The courthouse sits to the side of a lovely town plaza in one of the most picturesque settings in Texas. The Hood County seat of Granbury, southwest of Fort Worth, is home to a beautiful 1890s courthouse that has been restored. It is a combination of Second Empire and Romanesque designs. The building is located in the middle of Granbury's historic business district. Both New Braunfels and Granbury have become very popular with tourists who are attracted to the historical sites. Many of Texas's 254 counties benefit from heritage tourism. Thousands of tourists visit historical sites around Texas, including courthouses, which are always an attraction.
Heritage tourism is the fastest growing branch of tourism in the country. Heritage tourists, according to Travel Bureau statistics, are better educated, they spend more money, and they stay longer than any other branch of tourists.
Native Texans and newcomers alike maintain a deep love and instinctive appreciation for the state's wonderful collection of historic courthouses. The vastness of the state seems more intimate when the universal appeal of restored county courthouses becomes common ground.
Well, I've had a lifetime kind of affection for courthouses. I'm like a lot of other people that grew up in rural Texas, and the courthouse was a big building that everyone went to see when they went into a town.
When I went into a town, even if I didn't have to go to the courthouse for business, I would always find time to go there.
Gonzales County's 1894 red brick and limestone courthouse in the town of Gonzales is another eye-catching building in the Romanesque style.
It is one of the counties that still arranged according to the old Spanish style of the courthouse with a large park square around it.
Gonzales's courthouse features a massive clock tower surrounded by smaller towers and cupolas. Other architectural features include intriguing arches and balconies. The Mason County Courthouse in west central Texas is a timeless example of classic revival style. The courthouse is situated on Mason's Pleasant Town Square. The third floor of the building features a dormitory where all male juries of the era could be sequestered overnight, a practice that wouldn't change until the 1950s, when women were at last allowed to serve on juries. McLennan County's imposing Beaux-Arts Courthouse in Waco opened in 1901.
It is designed to be a miniature of St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome.
Northeast of Abilene, the town of Albany still maintains its western flavor. Towering over Albany's town square is the Shackelford County Courthouse. The building opened in July of 1884 and over the years had deteriorated to the point that eventually a ceiling collapsed. Through the persistent efforts of preservationists, the courthouse has been completely restored and is a symbol of pride for county residents.
Shackelford County is spectacular. The courtroom is an interesting architectural feature so that everyone could see the judge, and probably more importantly, the judge could see everyone in the courtroom. The floor slopes towards the bench so that everybody is staggered, original 1884 theater seating.
The Shackelford County Courthouse is an outstanding example of Second Empire style and is a true West Texas landmark. Some county courthouses, such as Shackelford's, can be seen from miles away. Other courthouses, such as in Denton County, are the focal point for the downtown business district.
Courthouses in smaller counties and in small towns are the economic hub. They create the identity for the town, the county seat, and the county.
Goliad's courthouse renovation is an example of how a courthouse square can be affected by courthouse restoration.
We think the project, which is close to $5 million, is acting as a catalyst for downtown revitalization.
As the town of Goliad prepared for the rededication of its courthouse in December of 2003, many storefronts and other establishments surrounding the courthouse square were spruced up to greet visiting dignitaries and tourists.
those 5 in back go to the other stand, and you make them in the stand.
The celebration of the rededication of the courthouse would be a big day for Goliad.
I'd say opposite sides of the cross side.
County workers and volunteers make the final arrangements before the ceremony begins. The rededication of the courthouse is a milestone event in the history of Goliad, and people come from across Texas to witness the festivities. The dignitaries give their speeches.
Thank you very much, Steve, for those wonderful words.
The ribbon is cut. Then the doors are opened. And Goliad citizens eagerly begin to tour their beloved courthouse.
All the doors that have hardware like this are original. We had to have this specially custom made in San Francisco.
Goliad citizens are thrilled with their beautifully restored courthouse.
We're just delighted with it. We think it looks elegant, absolutely elegant.
Today it's a great day to see the towers back up again. This is real beautiful. It's a special day for all those people from Goliad.
We did it. It's done. It's done.
Through the day-to-day efforts of local citizens and the work of the Texas Historical Commission, the restoration of the Goliad County Courthouse is now complete. Many courthouses throughout the state are in the process of being restored, thanks to the funding that has been consistently earmarked by Texas legislators since 1999. These structures are important because they represent more than working government buildings. They are monuments to an earlier age, monuments that convey the vision and identity of the people who built them for future generations to appreciate.
The courthouse speaks to me about the dreams of the founders of a county.
I'm very pleased to see that people in Texas have gone to great pains to restore their courthouses.
I applaud the preservation of these historic courthouses.
They're all important. They all speak to a cultural heritage that we have to maintain.
Bricks and mortar are only held together by the love and the trust of the people of those counties.
I think they're a treasure we really have to take care of.